when you finally land back on Mother Earth, it's a little bit of a letdown once you've had all that adrenaline rush and that fanfare and you've been so focused. And I did recently also do an interview on a sports psychologist who's an Olympian, and asked her a similar related question. So after the Olympics, what then? So how do you then sort of pick up your life, keep it meaningful, keep it ongoing, return to the real world, so to speak? And similarly, when you return out from space, you've accomplished your mission. Uh, um, you've had all the excitement of being welcomed back, and now what next?
I'll say coming home is it's going to be different for everyone. I'm somebody who's kind of never done with things. I'm always sort of cramming more in until the last minute, and certainly that was true of the space station. My shuttle missions are a little bit different, but no matter what the mission was, I mean, at each of the shuttle missions and the two shuttle missions, and then the space station one, you've spent this really concentrated time in your life. I mean, for the first shuttle mission, we trained for 2.5 years, and then the mission delayed over 30 days, 7 launch attempts. And then we finally got to go, and it was an experiment mission. And it's not just your science, it's you're doing other people's science experiments, and it's clear that there's only these 16 days, and in these 16 days we have to learn a lot of things in order to be make sure we are designing and building the right space station. So everything feels imperative, and every data point feels that way. And the same for the Chandra mission, launching the Chandra X-ray Observatory. Very short mission because it was the biggest and the heaviest thing we've ever brought to space. And it was over literally before you could blink, because it was like a 4-day mission, very short. Um, and so then you get back, and I mean, there's never been a thought that you would stay very much longer. And I've talked, I'm often good friends with many of the spouses, and it's a hard time for the spouses when the crew member gets home, because they are a little bit lost about what is the next thing. And in the case of a shuttle, I mean, a certain point in your career, there's going to be a next thing. There's going to be a next assignment, another shuttle mission, or getting assigned to the station. But certainly my space station mission, I knew was pretty likely my very last mission. And in many ways, I would have loved if it delayed another 6 months, that I would come home. And we did have, like, they said, "Oh, we're gonna have a delay," and I was thinking, "Yes." And they said, 2 weeks delay. I'm like, "Well, okay. I mean, could it be more?" Right? And truthfully, there was something that happened that made it a possibility that it might be longer, and I was overjoyed, partly because I'm never done, but also because it also feels like what you're doing up there. Every I thought it would only be true of these shuttle missions, but when I was on the space station, I felt like every data point counted. Every data point got us to understand: are we flying the right environmental system that takes CO2 out of the air? Is this the best toilet to be using? I mean, what other changes would you make to it? And certainly for the science experiments where you take away gravity, and there's an immense opportunity, especially biologically. I would say every biological process is quite interesting up there. Um, it's once you get up there, it takes about a month to get good at being up there and working with everything floating and everything. And I just wanted to get more done. Give me another month to get more stuff done. So then when you do come home, I think the good news is that if you are in this profession, your profession or my profession, you are a mission-oriented person. And it's not just about the next data point. It's about the mission of exploration, or the mission of healing people, helping people, in the things in your world. And I think that mission becomes immediately clear, especially if you can keep kind of like the other little conversations away, like, oh, so and so is going to space now, and when you're probably not going to have another turn. Or I think keeping those conversations and focusing on what really was important to you, and those things are probably still important to you, and what have you achieved in terms of doing a lot of things and keeping a balance with your or a balance, or succeeding in your personal life, maybe your academic life as well. So I think there is a horizon there, which is that you realize that there's things that are really important to you. And for me, it's about trying to help people realize that none of the challenges here on earth are going to be solved alone. None of the teams that really, none of the big solutions come from an individual person almost ever, I think. And so understanding how to embrace, welcome, and appeal to people on your team that are really different than you are is a skill that all of us need to learn because we will have better teams. So I really like helping people realize that, I mean, I'm lucky enough to have a job where people say, oh, teamwork must have been imperative. And now I can, because I have their attention. I mean, it's really not fair, but people like to listen about space. And because I have their attention, then I can teach them actually about, some of the emotional part of and the strategy part of learning how to have the best team.
And then I think having a some sort of a plan of what to do next. And I'd love you in a moment to be able to show some of your Artemis slides and that beautiful red moon slide. But I was also going to say that again, it varies from person to person. My senior partner, when he retired, everyone said, well, what are you going to do when you retire? Well, he said, first thing, I don't want to come to conferences and for everyone to politely have to ask me a question when I'm sitting in the corner just because I'm there. So he did something totally different. He taught literacy classes for English as a second language, and he had two groups of subjects. There were those children who were really struggling to read, and then he had amazingly intellectual people who were coming from abroad who were already postdoctoral or and immigrating to the United States who still needed to master English as a language. So he had these two groups of subjects, clients, patients, and he did this all voluntarily. And he found that, he said, almost more rewarding than anything that he'd ever done in medicine, and got a wonderful write up in the newspapers about what he had done. But having that next step to stay involved in something is so important. And I think you've managed to stay involved with space education and so on, which is so amazing. And perhaps you could enlarge on that.
I think it's important. I think, like you said, having a plan before you go on the mission, so that when you get back, you've got some rocks to hold on to, would be the smartest thing to do. I won't say I did that. I think the preparation and the being on the mission were really consuming, and I think that's probably true in your world as well. So I would advise people to do that. I can't brag that I did that myself. And some of the things when I got back, I mean, it still felt very useful. Actually, I mean, we talked about how many days in space, 8,800, whatever, in the whole job and 180 in space. We spent a lot of time doing extra jobs, things that you need an astronaut to do, or it's best if an astronaut does, even a perspective at a meeting, helping make sure that they're designing things in a way that an astronaut would use them, different things like that. One of the niches that I found was actually being able to explain things to people and doing commentary for the news, and realizing how much I think there's really a value in helping people understand what we're doing in space and why it's important. Because people like to just say all that money all spent in space, and being able to explain that.
Thank you for tuning in, and I hope this conversation has given you a preview of what's ahead at SMA's annual Scientific Assembly in Houston this year in November. We've built an engaging program designed to inform you, inspire you, and connect you with colleagues. Visit sma.org or scan the QR code to explore the full agenda and register. We would be delighted to have you join us.